Hi guys, welcome back to the Creative Corner. If you're new here, I'm Ashes and we talk about manuscripts and makeup here and we just kind of hang out and have fun. I am a book loving, knitting, and crocheter with two cats and I just hang out and like to talk. Today is all about poetry. April is National Poetry Month, and so I have attended a poetry conversation, and I might make a video about it. I did write an article for one of our newspapers about it. Kind of proud of it. Enjoyed meeting the guy, and so we might chat a little bit in another video. But today I want to test out this mic. It's new. I don't even know if it's working. It's green. The thing that plugs into the phone is red. Is it actually on? I don't know. We will find out after the video. And if this video recorded correctly, we'll upload it. If not, then I will hold the mic out and try it again. But I'm hoping that the mic solves our problem with too much background noise and makes it where you can hear me more clear and understand me, because I am aware that I do have a speech problem. It is because of my overbite. Okay, I have a bad overbite. I took one speech lesson, one class, and so I have worked on pronouncing things better, but I am aware that it doesn't always come off right, and so I am trying to fix that for our channel. But today I just want to do a poetry reading about some of my favorite poems. In a later video, later this month, we will do a poetry reading of some of my poems, and then we'll probably talk about some poets, because that guy that I went and saw for the newspaper introduced me to the history of Nebraska state poets, and it's pretty interesting and pretty cool. And so we might actually do a video on state poets and the poet laureate, which he believes, and I'm going to reconfirm this, but he believes that Nebraska is the only state in the United States that has a dead but still serving poet laureate. And so I thought that was interesting, and so we will dig into the history of that possibly too. Alright, but today we're going to read some of my favorite poems. These are not by me, these are by other people. These are just ones that I love growing up. We are taught basically from a young age that poetry is over difficult. What's that? One of those words I'm looking for. And it's not over difficult, just so you know. Over complicated, that's the word I'm looking for. And that it's difficult. Um, but poetry at its heart is raw emotion and its reactions to situations and circumstances. And I'm not a huge fan of like the old poets, but I have a couple favorites, alright? And I do have a shelf full of poetry books because it's a guilty pleasure, and to me, poetry is, it's journaling. It's expressing my thoughts basically. And so my musing books are just random thoughts and stream of consciousness. I think Virginia Woolf might like my poems. Does that make me sound really conceited? Maybe it does, but mine are very stream of consciousness. But the ones I'm reading today are some of my favorites, and I'm going to be reading four. Okay, two of them are actually about social issues. One of them is about friendship, and one of them just comes from my favorite poet ever, which is Emily Dickinson. Alright, and so we're going to read Emily's first, and it is called Hope is the Thing with Feathers, and I just love the imagery in this poem. Alright? Hope is the thing with feathers that perches in the soul, and sings the tune without the words and never stops at all. And sweetest in the gale is heard, and sore must be the storm that could abash the little bird that kept so many warm. I've heard it in the chillest land and on the strangest sea, yet never in extremity it asked a crumb of me. I just love that poem. It's about having hope and how hope is a natural human emotion, and it makes your soul like soar and sing like a bird. And I think it's just the best expression of hope ever. So that was Hope is a Thing with Feathers by Emily Dickinson. The next one is We Wear the Mask by Paul Laurence Dunbar. This was written by an African American poet. It comes out of the Harlem Renaissance. And this poem was written in direct relation, if I remember the history right, okay? I learned this in college, so if I'm wrong, forgive me and do correct me kindly in the comments. But kindly, it came out of the Harlem Renaissance, and it's a direct reaction to some racism that was going on at the time, and how he, Paul Laurence Dunbar, and the African American community had to pretend to be okay with things, even though they knew that they were wrong. Um, when I first found out this poem, the um, first three lines of this hit home with me. I felt like I was always, it's not, for me, it wasn't the racism part. It wasn't about race. For me, even though that's what the original poem was about, for me, it was, I always wore a mask. My depression hadn't been diagnosed. My anxiety hadn't been diagnosed. I felt like I was going through the day pretending to be someone else, out of body experience, and then when I get home, everything would hit, and I just would fall as that mask fell off. And so I actually found this one in college during a Harlem Renaissance themed unit. And so, We Wear the Mask by Paul Laurence Dunbar. We wear the mask that grins and lies. It hides our cheeks and shades our eyes. This debt we pay the human guile, with torn and bleeding hearts we smile, and mouth with myriad subtleties. Why should the world be overwise in counting all our tears and sighs? Nay, let them only see us while we wear the mask. We smile, but oh great Christ, our cries to the to the yeah, sorry. We smile, but oh great Christ, our cries to thee from tortured souls arise. We sing, but oh the clay is vile beneath our feet and along the mile. But let the world dream otherwise. We wear the mask. And then this next poem, I just think is beautiful. This next poem is by Wilfred Owen. He is a French writer, and it is called Dulce Art, which is French, and it basically translates to how sweet the death, okay? How sweet is death, basically. There's a whole line at the end that translates to how sweet it is to die for one's country, is basically what it translates to in English, okay? I actually found out about this poem in a history class. We were learning about the French Revolution, and I had the coolest history professor ever. We actually LARPed the French Revolution and the the Chinese opiate trade. We had to do an online game for that. We didn't like sell drugs, but we had to do like an online game, and then we LARPed another one where we were all individual representatives of countries serving on the United Nations, and we had to discuss this issue that was happening in Africa. And it wasn't our current issue, it was an old issue. And we weren't allowed to look up how it actually happened until the end. We had to decide for ourselves. We were given a sheet of paper, told what our thing was. I was from China. I was told on my sheet of paper that I was not allowed to vote for certain things. And if I did, I would be executed by my superiors. And so I we even did it outside of class. Like, we were encouraged to. We were encouraged to meet up for salons and chat and get our points across and stuff. And if we did, we could record them and get extra points. My person's whole thing was it had to be proved to be a threat to China or they weren't going to vote. And so, because my person had to abide by the Chinese government laws. And then there was someone who was America, and they had to be very straightforward, and they had to be very pro equality and pro like getting involved and stopping all this. And they were the big three. There was China, America, Russia, and they had more votes basically than everyone else. So if they wanted to do anything, they had to get us on their side, and it was a fun experience. But during our French Revolution one was when Dulce et Decorum Est was brought up. That one was a fun experience because I was just a civilian. I played a civilian, and one of my friends who was from Spain and was a foreign exchange student came over for soccer. He was the king, and like I said, we kind of knew what would happen because it's history, but we weren't really taught the entire thing until after we LARPed it. And so it was an interesting way to teach us, and we ended up voting for this king's execution. And he did this whole dramatic thing where he screamed and was like, "No, I love you. You guys are my people," while he was dragged down the aisle of our classroom. And it was just, she was the coolest, the absolute coolest teacher I have ever known. And so she showed us this poem during the French Revolution unit, and I think you guys would like it. And I just fell in love with it because the imagery is on point. Like, this is a poem about war, and it really makes you feel the war, okay? Dulce et decorum est by Wilfred Owen. Bent oval, gosh, guys. Bent double, like old beggars under sacks, knock-kneed, coughing like hags, we cursed through sludge, till on the haunting flares we turned our backs, and towards our distant rest began to trudge. Men marched asleep, many had lost their boots, but limped on, bloodshod. All went lame, all blind, drunk with fatigue, deaf even to the hoots of gas shells dropping softly behind. Gas! Gas! Quick, boys! An ecstasy of fumbling! Fitting the clumsy helmets just in time, but someone still was yelling out and stumbling, and floundering like a man in fire or lime. Dim through the misty plains and thick green light, as under a green sea, I saw him drowning. In all my dreams, before my helpless sight, he plunges at me, guttering, choking, drowning. If in some smothering dreams you too could pace behind the wagon that we flung him in, and watch the white eyes withering in his hanging face, like a devil sick of sin. If you could hear at every jolt the blood come gargling from the froth-corrupted lungs, obscene as cancer, bitter as the cud, of vile, incurable sores, O innocent tongues, my friend, you would not tell with such high zest to children ardent for some desperate glory. The old lie, dulce et decorum est, pro partia mori, which means how sweet it is to die for one's country. And basically, he's talking about how, especially, and here he says the old lie, so he's talking about like the older generation, telling them like it is sweet to die for your country. You need to go die. But he's saying, yeah, dying for your country. He's not saying it's not worth it. He's saying that it's not sweet. It comes with corruption. It comes with trauma. It comes with all this stuff that you are never going to forget. He describes watching a man die in gas. Like, I just think that's such a great insight into a soldier's view. And so that's why I love that poem. All three of those last poems I got from poetry.com. I believe is what it's called. I just shut it off. I should have checked. This last one is going to come from a poem book I was given in high school by someone who gave me a bunch of clothes that she outgrew. And she was going to college and she gave me a bunch of them. And this was tucked in. And it's a collection called Poems That Touch the Heart by A.L. Anderson. Well, A.L. Alexander. But the poems in it are by several different people. And so I've had this one marked for ages. You can tell by the Obi-Wan Kenobi Valentine that I used as a bookmark when episode 2 came out. May the force be with you on Valentine's Day. There's another one in here somewhere, but this one was my favorite one and I circled it. And it is by B.Y. Williams, The Friend Who Just Stands By. When trouble comes your soul to try, you love the friend who just stands by. Perhaps there's nothing he can do, the thing is strictly up to you. For there are troubles all your own, and past the soul must tread alone. Whoops. Times when love cannot smooth the road, nor friendship lift a heavy load, but just to know you have a friend who will stand by until the end, whose sympathy through all endures, whose warm hand clasp is always yours. It helps some way to pull you through, although there's nothing he can do. And so with fervent heart you cry, God bless the friend who just stands by. And I just love that one because, I mean, oh no, I lost it. Now I'm gonna have to find it again. I didn't have very many friends when I was a high schooler. Was a weird kid, undiagnosed with lots of different things, and it was just an interesting time in my life. And so I had always wanted a friend like that. I do currently have one. Amber is a friend like that. And they're just there for anything, there to vent. And Amber and Portia are probably the only friends I've ever had that I felt truly like were 100% by my side the entire time and were just there when things went wrong. They were just be there and listen. And so that poem was kind of like a wish for me when I was in high school, but it's become reality. And so those are some of my favorite poems, and I hope you guys enjoyed them. Let me know in the comments what your favorites are. I do think I was considering whether I should put the poems on the book blanket, because most poems do come in collections like this, but they are written as individual units. It's just easier and it's just better to publish them as a collection because people are more likely to buy a collection than they are an individual poem, right? And so I think I am going to list them on the chart, and I am going to list them separately simply because they are by different authors. But we have another poem collection that I am going to read and review this month that is going to be listed just as a collection on the book blanket, and it will get the same color as these. I think they're going to get, I haven't really decided. Should we go with the purple shiny? I got it for Thriller, but I really want to use it. So I think we're going to go with the purple shiny for poetry. Alright? And get some purple involved in the blanket. So anyway, love you guys. Thank you for being here. Subscribe if you haven't. Hopefully we're getting back to this. Now that the mic is here, I still have to figure out our background. I don't like how low I am compared to this shelf, but maybe if I fill up the shelf a little more or put some posters down here, it'll feel a little better to me. And so we are going to work on organizing this. But thank you guys for being here, and I hope you have a great rest of your day. Bye.